Um, this is Anthony's reflections on the Niggatry new entry that's going to come out.
So what did you? I guess let's start like what did you want me to do?
To be honest, it's like my first curiosity, I guess, with your opinion is you are a black mind.
Okay, yeah.
And I respect that. And not only you're a black mind, but you're a black mind who know the lit.
Okay, yeah.
For me, I try to write for people who are not necessarily in the lit to have purchased to the lit. And so that's one perspective. As a coach, I always prepare for the black people first because they were hardest to beat. So said everyone else.
Right.
So says our debate skills. And so says the top people in the country. They lose to them like it's their fucking job. I know because I've coached a lot of those L's.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And even the ones that I don't coach, I've studied those as a reason to write Niggatry in the debate context.
Okay.
Like I could have wrote it outside of it.
Right.
But there's a reason why it's in it. And a part of it, in a lot of ways, is, I guess, to speak to the third concern that I was like, I hope your eyes are able to like glean and have an opinion on at the very least, which is this shit really not meant for niggas who got time to read book after fucking
yeah.
It's just not.
That's real. Yeah.
And so it is meant for the encouragement of niggas to live more life. And I know as a pessimist, most of the shit that is anchored in our lit don't really do that until the end.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Or unless it's a whole book and it's like, oh shit, the whole.
Right. Okay, I see.
Yeah, it's like, all right, well that could be genitive even if it's not positive, nigga. Right. But it's like,
right.
And I'm not necessarily like shooting for positive either.
Right. No. Yeah.
But I definitely am shooting for, hey yo, nigga. I know they say this world is hyper fucked up, and it is. But that's not the end of the world.
Right. Okay,
And I think that that's the larger point that I'm trying to belabor and a lot of the maneuvering towards the end of it, because I'm just like, it's not the thesis.
Right, okay.
But it's an attempt to have a consolidation after the thesis. It's like,
okay.
If the thesis had a discussion, sure. Boo, boo, boo. What's the mixtape after the album, nigga? And this is really it. It's like,
okay, yeah.
All right, this is Food to Liquor too, my nigga. Like, and partly because I think it's also with me thinking with all the shit that I learned in graduate school. Most of this shit was penned first year, right? And so it's like after my first year, what was the things that I learned? And a lot of what I learned was I'd be defensive as a writer.
Okay.
Because I don't really know who the fuck. I write as a debater. Like, I write as, bitch, you're going to answer my shit.
Right, yeah.
And if you're going to answer my shit, nigga, I got to fill all the holes. And I'm going to do that shit in advance because, bitch, you're not word picking me.
Yeah.
And so I thought that this was a piece that wasn't written with that anxiety. Unlike the thesis.
Okay.
Right, which is all this explanatory shit. This is like, hey, yo, fuck with the nigga. And so I was just like, all right, well, curious about your thoughts and those kind of perspectives or those frames. Not necessarily like that I want that presentation.
No, yeah, I totally get you, yeah.
Thinking about those for me was like, yeah, I should actually.
Okay. Yeah.
You're like one of the best pessimists of, debate
yeah.
Slash non-debate, actually.
Yeah. Okay, alright, and so this, to you, I mean, obviously, teams can write pessimist apps and stuff, but this is more like a neg thing for you.
To be honest, I actually would love to see what an app would look like.
Okay. Yeah, no, I see that, yeah. Okay.
I most of this is coming from our spec, which is specify where your niggas at.
Okay.
Right, and usually no AF is willing to actually specify that, including ones that are about black people.
Okay.
And what I've learned, my current language and the shit that I write now, is that accent question, ACTANT. Not accent, but accent.
Acting, yeah.
That question for me has been like a real probing one because I think it speaks to the level of why niggas need niggatry. And that's probably also caveated with like some other shit that I found after penning this, which was, it was like a TikTok video that was like this nigga being like, you know, but niggas get that gaffer, they just nigga. Niggas gonna nigga. And I was like, yeah. But how do you describe that? That's niggatry. Niggas niggering. And,
okay.
And so, thinking about that in a lot of ways was like, how do I consolidate that?
All right, so I feel like the way I'm gonna do it is I'm gonna, I guess, like talk about the things that I really liked about the piece.
This is a review. Man.
No, yeah. And then I feel like I think for the like critical engagement part, I'll just like talk about parts where I feel like when it's being deployed, like little things that I saw. Yeah. So the first thing I like that I guess the first thing I thought about when I was reading it, I was like, oh, Niggatry. I was like, that's funny. I was like I put that together. I was like, that's clever. I fuck with that, you know. Because at first I was like, what is this nigga talking about trees for? And then I was like, Niggatry. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. No, like I get it. No, I was like, this word, that's real. And so I was like, dope. And then I was thinking, I guess the first thing I was thinking, first question I kind of had for you was like, why, not as in like a why not do this, why didn't you do that, but like maybe a perhaps like thing that I was thinking about is like maybe like coining a thing about like an anti-nigga world, because I feel like the way because I feel like the way you're talking about anti-blackness, it seems to like draw to this, it seemed to draw to this, so like, an anti-nigga world, then it just seems to like line up with this whole, like you're creating this whole new value system. And also it seems like, there's not an academic term, there's no one talks about what does it mean to be what is an anti-nigga, you know what I'm saying? So I just thought that was interesting, I was like, that'd be cool, so I was like, that'd be dope, so I was like, yeah.
I'm going to have to cite you, bro.
No, I thought it was tight. I thought it was tight. I was like, I'm going to have to cite you for that. I thought it was a gym. I was like, that'd be kind of tight if you just like just talk about anti-nigga and then just like go off,
because I didn't have the language necessarily to explain how much of a rub that I was making. Like, I remember when Gillespie was like, hey, I'm going to depart from Wilderson at some point. And this nigga had some angst about it.
Oh, yeah, he did.
And my ass was like, I'm be honest with you, insert light-skinned nigga at the crib. I'm going to have to AI my nigga for my survival. Like, fuck that nigga. Here's the AI crossover for Jordan in the All-Star game. Like, bitch, out your sneakers, nigga. Like, bitch, I'm going to dilute the shit out you too, bitch. I don't give a fuck. Like, in thinking about that, it's like, sure.
Yeah.
They really don't, and this is I guess this is how I understand capital now. But hey, if we gotta compete, shout out to the debate, I can still fuck with you and Ja Rule the shit out you, nigga. And it's like, for them dollars? Right. Unless you on the squad, nigga, I'ma steal a teeth out your mouth and this is out your kitchen. Like, you got me fucked up.
No, yeah. Then I guess to me, like the part when you got to debate was really coherent. Like I really fucked with it when you got to the debate part. I was like, oh, I really liked the way you like spun the black care shit. That was really cool too. I was like, okay, I'll fuck with this because I was just like, because I caught it when you were talking about the brownfield stuff at the top, and I was like, oh, then when you start talking about, because then I saw the weathering part, and I was like, oh, but then, you tied it in really well, I really liked that part, and then the nigga affect, obviously, that was key, that was obviously key as well, but to me, when I got to the nigga affect part, I was just like, oh, like, you know what I'm saying, like, the nigga affect part, to me, I was like, this is the this is the whole framework for how the shit should be evaluated, because it was explaining all the different things, and you know, so I thought that was also just, you know, really really good as well. Let's see.
That's wild.
Damn. Let's see.
I try not to step on Judy's toes with the nigga affect shit.
That's real. That's real.
Because one of the things I realized after team reading is that I do not agree with this nigga.
That's real. Yeah, he is much more of the
conservative when it comes to interventions of capitalism. And so I realized that what he's attempting to do is basically, I don't know if you're familiar with Adorno.
Oh, yeah.
His bitch ass critique about how shit ain't new. I feel like he did that same shit with rap. And then be like, here's why. The only thing that is remotely new is nigga affect. Boop. And it's like, hey, bro, that shit wild.
He did do that shit.
And I'm just like, yeah, you inspired me to then go look at why you were able to do that move. And then be like, that's violent.
Yeah.
That's anti-black as fuck. And according to you, anti-nigga as hell.
True.
And I'm just like,
oh. Yeah, I watched him when he did that interview with Wilderson, or he was talking to Wilderson, and like he just looked at Wilderson and he was just like, you just don't have an answer for all these da 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 da. And I was just like, damn. I was like, you know, because obviously, you know, the way debate uses nigga affect is like kind of like coterminous with, you know, pessimism.
Well,
super,
Alright, so debate uses nigga affect, funny enough, through the memory of George and She.
That's true.
So without
we definitely did that too. But
without nigga affect, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like, debate has that memory co-constitutive to it. That's so real. Like, sure.
Yeah. That's real. Yeah.
Minus that. It's like, it's why you can then make the Judy a bitch, basically. For doing this shit, he did the wildest thing.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah.
But we also know that those debates, for example, don't actually happen like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, like, you're not gonna be confrontational with George, but like, hey, run it, nigga. Run all that shit you can't fucking answer right now. Run it, bitch. He also not gonna do the same shit to you.
Yeah, right.
With pure respect out of I understand the critique of Afro-pessimism to a degree.
Right.
Telling you run it looks stupid as fuck, actually. Partly because I got respect for you.
Right. Okay. I see.
And it's like minus that respect, which is the competitor. Hey, bro, I know that you are the dean about your shit.
Yeah.
That's not had when you got two academics who are like, I think of these things.
True. Yeah.
And it's like, no, y'all niggas are proponents of staples of thought now. Like, I will defend this, not I think of these things.
True.
Even if the shit you are thinking about is exposed and around via CX. Like, well, nigga, our app says da-da-da-da-da-da-da, or nigga, the negs link is da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's like, so, niggas have figured that the fuck out. Academics, because it's their job, they gonna fucking argue. And then when I realized that shit, I was just like, actually, I think this bitch ass. That's like, put a camera on and y'all gonna fight. That literally is a nigga moment if I ain't never see one nigga. Like, y'all literally throw a chair. It's like, fight! I'm like, nah. No. You're no longer in plantation, my guy. I quit. Okay. Then I was like, I'm generative to that nigga, partly because I think that he is exfoliating a kind of capitalism. Right, or capitalistic like maneuver that I think is really pivotal.
Right.
But how he did it, I think, is kind of gross. That's why I can't nigga to Adorno and not like, I don't know, insert all of your people who are cultural theorists who like culture gets extracted and this is like cultural appropriation. Like, cause he don't make that turn. He just like it turns into capital.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, shout out to you and your neoliberal expression about how blackness works.
Definitely in that. Yeah.
But that speaks nothing to how that extraction process happens to black life. And the only reason why you're comfortable doing it because you called it motherfucking rap music before you called it nigga affect. And it's like you're pointing out with white people like not what niggas are going through.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's like you don't believe David Bannon when he says wife got shot. My point is that he sold that narrative to niggas as a believable metric to sell other shit like 360 deals. Like, that's what they do. They literally depend on lifestyles to sell you a whole bunch of shit. That nigga's doing the same thing with rap. I don't think that shit cool. I think that if you selling me black nationalism, nigga, don't rap to me, bro.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
do it.
what that's for real.
I think it's gross. Fuck you, Killer Mike too. Like, all that shit gross. Ice Cube, all that shit gross. Because you're now depending on that old stain, that capital that black people know you as, to then sell them whole lifestyles of epoch that are fabrications. Because you'll never stitch the gaps between, well, I made really, really fucked up ass deals with white people. It's like, what? You never tell niggas that shit. And in fact, you're selling them a dream like, hey, yo, just listen to me, bro. You can do it all black. Dick, nigga. If you could, you would, but you haven't.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Like, it's not to say black nationalism can't work. It's just like, y'all are weird about how y'all sell this. Like, it don't require any work besides what the fuck you suggest. That Messiah complex shit is gross. Bitch, Jesus died. Nigga, I'm just not with it. My bad. I was just like, that's why I had the whole fucking this nigga critique of nigga affect because I had to experience it without George and Sheed. George and Sheed gives me a whole nigga. If I'm doing a debate treatise on that shit, which is a different turn away from his shit, it's definitely, like, definitely. Nigga, he says that extraction process is something that we should hold as value. Because those niggas are building upon that black gold shit. Right? And so that's why we understand them and their use of Judy like that.
Right.
They never quoted a piece of fucking Judy evidence in their whole career. They said, this nigga has inspired us to think about nigga affect. That's exactly what niggas said.
Okay. So I guess since we were talking about Judy, the first thing I guess I was gonna ask about was, why do you think the black, I guess, like, why do you think the black women securing the $11 million bag was not conditional on their whole, like, why do you not associate that with the knowledge as power stuff that you were, like, referencing through Judy?
And part of that is because, like, I think that the take that I'm making about those women is to be like,
really hot on the bottom.
Oh shit, it is. But thank you. Is to suggest that, like, those women are like, they still niggas. Right? And if we never knew this before this, if we were like, no, they're black people, insert their motherfucking social economic value to get on that motherfucking train in the first place, because bitch, you can't be broke getting on this bitch.
That's true. Yeah, right. Yeah,
okay, cool. Yeah. We'll assume all that shit. And then how do we find out that they're niggas? Because they get the fucking Oprah treatment, which is, she go all the way to Paris to buy fucking shoes and get called a nigga. And then it's like, how poor are you? Bitch, you're a whole billionaire. And at the moment in which you are dejected as a nigga, it's like you feel fucking worthless. No matter what actions you do after that.
Right.
And so it's to suggest that these black women never forgot that shit. Right. And the reason why they didn't forget it, no matter how much money they make, right? As Kanye said, you still a nigga in the coop.
That's real. Yeah.
Right? And so if that's context for you, then I think it speaks volumes to when they go to be like, hey, yo, did you just...
yeah.
And they then charge niggas for that experience, which is very rare. But because you get to do that, nigga, that's the most nigger shit. You literally got an inch and took a fucking mile.
Definitely that, yeah.
like, nigga, you got, like, the inch was... Oh, well, them white people didn't kill your dumb ass. They could have killed all of them black people and said Nathan. Because they were all drunk. What the fuck does it mean to put them off the train? And as you pull off, the black people are like, what the fuck? And leg get caught underneath that bitch. Okay. Nigga, they just did. What you gonna do? Pay the lawsuit? Yup. Which is what the fuck happened here. So it's like, shout out to no loss of black life. And guess what they were able to do as they survived.
True.
Right? Because it wasn't the initial putting off the train that actually got them the bag. It was them bitches shit on them on the website. And it's like, hold up, word?
Right, okay.
Say less, but you gave us proof because now it's not nigga hearsay. Like, that's the problem. Any black word against anything else goes void. So it's like, insert voices essay here by Shanair. It's like, all right, sure. I think that this is not the same thing as Judy, because Judy is usually trying to push this idea that, like, well, if we know better, we'll just do better. And it's like, nigga, I'm not advising that every black person sue because of racism. But if you in the moment, do what the fucking moment calls for, my nigga.
Okay, right, okay.
This might mean punch a bitch in their mouth.
right.
But it also might mean go get the bag, nigga. Like,
right. Okay, yeah.
We live in racial capitalism. This shit ain't for free. Like,
alright, man.
And it's, fucking Chris Brown said, the dick ain't for free.
Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay, I guess some of the tough questions that I had for the piece was, what do you think like an honorable death for niggas is? Yeah.
Alright. So
Yeah.
one of them is probably insert Jubilee as like sustainable instance. I believe black suicide is honorable death and a kind. It's not the only. But I'm also like a Huey P. Newton fan. So like honorable death is revolutionary suicide by every means. So it's living your life to an exhaustive state. That exhaustive state is because you're not trying to exhaust your blackness. But it's going to be exhaustive living while black to the extreme in which we're talking about, which is niggas.
Okay.
Right?
Now,
that rawness.
Right there. Now, when you say that, because when you're talking about exhaustion, I'm thinking about the part where you're talking about energy. And so I guess, like, do you think, is there a relationship between how you think about niggas and their ability to produce potential and this exhaustive state that they experience when they aspire towards like black humanism?
Yes. And that kind of concept, like if we're like raw nigga goes or nigga flesh goes and does and act in the world, yes, there exists exhaustion being aspirational to black people. That is all the checking that you have to do to make sure you're one of them, and that you checking to make sure you don't carry no niggas with you.
Right.
That shit is exhaustive like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Sure. The difference of the kind of exhausted I'm speaking about in terms of living while black is not that.
Okay.
Right? For niggas, and not black people, the exhaustion happens because they are attend to probably like one rule, which is you're living while black and dying.
Okay, yeah, that part.
That is the one rule that niggas actually follow, because I contend that niggas don't follow directions.
Right.
But that is the one.
Right.
Right, which is no matter how a nigga live, they're striving to keep their thing that they live like. It's not always the same thing. Right? It's not, when I was 5, I want to chase some Doge. No, it's not that.
Right, yeah.
But it is the ability to be like, bitch, I ain't got to be like you in every instance. Right? Niggas have to fight to hold on to that, because literally, that seduction of humanity, insert Hartman here, is fucking real.
Yeah.
Right? And it's to say that, like, when anti-blackness get to be described as ubiquitous, it's like, that's the ubiquitous shit. Right? I'm now describing that as a set of non-decisions and neural work or whatever. But, like, for me, when niggas are faced with that, the only thing that they really got to do is stay black and die. They can do all of this other shit, which is voids actually any of the things that I said. It moves you away from blackness.
Okay.
And it prevents you from dying. They really going, like, they literally going to relive your narrative well after you have passed, to demonstrate that people can do this.
Okay.
Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King.
Yeah, okay. So then, I guess my next question was, why do you think Bill Cosby is the same as Martin Luther King? I was like, hold up. Right.
Niggas said, oh, no.
I got, because you were explaining it. You explained it kind of after the thing. But I was probably stuck on that line, so I was like, yeah.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
For me, they are tending to, and this is like literally a large portion of like the imagination work that I'm attending to, as how black people are captured or rendered, is how I'm moving through the things.
Yeah.
But like, it is not to say both of them do the same shit.
Right, yeah.
Right, but both of them definitely have hoes. Shout out to both of them niggas have hoes. Once again, shout out to the new work. But I think more importantly for Niggatry, I think that both of them stand as a conservative element to black life. Differently, right? Like, in black homes, no, they're not going to put up Bill Cosby, especially after this nigga case.
Sure,
no.
Definitely not, yeah.
But they do the Huxtables.
Right.
Heathcliff Huxtable Bill Cosby might have fucked this up for the rest of eternity.
Right.
But Heathcliff have saved lives. It's like, what?
Yeah.
And not just the ones on fucking TV according to black people. Right? And has set a touchstone epoch for broadcasting black families today. Name black sitcom that don't structure themselves like an episode of the Cosbys. We'll wait.
Right. Yeah.
Right, because that's how you get clearance to be a show about black people on television.
Definitely.
Minus that shit, nigga, you too ratchet.
Okay. I see.
Or
yeah.
it's about cops and black people. By any means.
That's real.
Insert Ice Cube, Shamar Moore, like there we go. It's like running.
Yeah.
Or niggas and drugs. And the last epoch is niggas and slavery. But like those are like literally, if I can name the genres in which black people appear on television and movies, that shit is gross.
Right. Okay.
But it speaks to how black people can then be comfortable with literally the Huxtables being the frame, regardless of the sexual politics of actually Bill Cosby shit. Right? And it still begets the fucking crossover audience that he's hearkening to, which is all this integration underlining shit that black people are also seduced with. Right? Because that's the ultimate public seduction. You can be a part of this too. Insert Farley and Perfectionist Slavery.
Right.
It's like, I don't even gotta go that far. And so both of them niggas chain out a kind of conservatism. Like, Martin Luther King is on niggas' walls next to Jesus and Obama. Like, I literally on my mama wall, I shit you not, it is Jesus, white and or of color, colored in stencil pencil, but have white features like anime characters. Weird as fuck. And then you got Martin Luther King, you got Obama, and then you got me. Like, literally, that's on my mama wall. Like, and it's like this, like, it speaks to what is believable of the black family and what's going to fucking save it. And so for me, I'm just like,
okay, yeah, okay.
You niggas need to be grouped partly because of how niggas y'all are great black hopes. The fuck?
So I guess what is safe to you? Like, what do you said the word safe, and like, what do you what are you thinking about there? Because I'm thinking about this relationship between the whole piece and what it's trying to do with like the term nigga, and then I do like that you then tried made the distinction between nigger and nigga, because I thought that was important, and I was like, solid, but I'm thinking about that in relationship to the conversation you were having about thug, and I'm thinking about it like when you're talking about the way, because I kind of resolved it for myself when I was reading, and it was like, oh, like it's kind of like the way people are projecting, I guess like their concept of, I guess like in this valence like niggerness, because seeming like it's more like attaching that to the concept of thug, I guess, to some degree. I guess I'm just wondering about the relationship between niggas being niggas and the relationship between the desire for safety and in relationship to just being in a world that you are saying that we are we're doing this whole navigating thing, and so I'm just thinking about that.
Look, a lot of this is because like my initial thoughts on safety and being safe. No nigga safe.
Right, yeah.
But if we're talking about space that can be guarded between niggas, I think that's the safest place for niggas to be in an anti-insert black flesh world. I think that safety is usually invoked upon black flesh to invoke the difference between black people and niggas. So when we say thug, that's usually not a safe place to be.
Right.
But problem is, how do I say this? I don't really know. Not a nigga alive who can't and should not have a little bit of thug in them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right, sure. As an attractive statement, meaning thug just means self-defense when it's amongst a group of niggas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mine is that we can't. There's no proxy for understanding why is that a desirable life. For example,
right,
and so because
yeah.
they can never render safety, they're never seen as desirable at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right, thugs are not seen as folks who can have capacity to produce families, right? Because they can't produce a kind of safety and security that does that.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
They can't own shit.
Yeah.
Like thugs are seen as fucking temporary or transient ass niggas, transient between the free world and the prison world, or a step foot out the fucking grave. Right, and so, but that's weird. That 1,010% weird. Partly because, for example, thugness can exist in almost every fucking profession that gets to be had, and it's just a derivative of "fuck you, black person." Right. That's usually the epistemology about how people and humans, and when I say people or civilians for that matter, have come to render blackness within that kind of concept.
Yeah.
But we also know within blackness, thug is desired. Like, oh my God, thug is desired. And it's desired by motherfuckers who desire authentication of blackness, but it's also desired as a securing partner, right, in a heteronormative frame within blackness. It also is like a resecuring in an unstable fucking class warfare that we call the hood. It's like, nigga, what? A thug? We need one of them. Like, the fuck? Beyonce made a whole song about that shit. I'm sorry, but like, the fuck? It gendered a whole generation of black people being like, we have language for this set of desires. We also not even talking about the homo thugs, like literally, like, which is a whole nother genre of down low motherfuckers who are then desired within blackness that were accused actually outside of blackness that's still a thug.
That's the, okay, yeah.
Right, and so it's like there's space in blackness to actually have hold of this, but I say that niggas are the only ones who actually do it.
Okay.
Right, without the liquidation of the libidinal carrier that is anti-blackness with all of this shit, which is, I need me a thug because insert popular demand. Like, fuck popular demand, bitch. Like, if my nigga's a thug, my nigga's a thug. I love niggas no matter how they are. That kind of distinction or patterns of movement is what I'm trying to hearken to as the kind of care that is necessary to approach niggas who have been thrown away like that.
Right.
And it's like thugs definitely have been thrown away.
Yeah.
Right. They have been unthought until we get to why we blame rap music for its misogyny. And it's like, that's really fucked up, because it's like, nigga, how do you then concede that, hey, rap music speaks to all of these black people who have really fucked up ass, lifestyles and have been disenfranchised, but then be like, hey, yo, you also the epicenter for misogyny, nigga. And it's like,
all right, okay.
Hand up. I'm not saying that multiple things can't be true at the same time, but for you to flatten this out to produce only the narrative of violence is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of liquidation here. It's like, nigga, in order for you to produce a good black person, you had to produce a bad nigga. And it's like, that shit gross. Oh, no, we won't do that shit here. And it's like, all right, Kamala Harris head ass niggas.
I like that. I like that distinction. Okay. Okay, this is a interesting question I thought that I was going to ask. And I guess it's also for the people that, I guess, like, for black people, as opposed to niggas. Because it's seeming like, I guess this is a two-part question. The first part of the question is, do you think that, okay, this makes sense, okay. It's seeming like, I guess, to me, because this is kind of like what we were talking about when we were talking about outside, that I feel like, it kind of came up for me again, and so I guess, to me, it seems like there's this difference between, there's this, this moment where you're talking about Chris Rock, and you're like, this is Chris Rock, and then, but you're also describing a relationship between niggas who have to stand in, as black people for, who act civil, And so I guess to me, in light of that, it's seeming like this line of like playing along, like what you were saying about black patterns, is just it's a messy thing. Like, it's a messy thing in general. Right, yeah. And so it's like, why do you think there should be an expectation of smooth navigation on behalf of maybe black people and also maybe like civility in general?
Niggas been messy.
Right, yeah.
Like this is to contend that there's a particular, like, embedded knowledge of flesh that I think that's why I'm going for pattern of movement here. That like niggas really know, right? Like the citation for pattern of movement comes from fucking Ronald Judy like interviewing basically fucking Ralph Ellison about Invisible Man. How come black people can identify, for example, with that text and there's no name? Like at best we assume it's a man. At best, right? But like literally, like we don't know none of that shit, and because that's true, it's like how do black life as a collective then can be like, why is this a thing? And it's like, nigga, because it speaks so many volumes to the life. So when you be like, well, why is there an expectation to not fuck this money up? There really isn't one, but it's a consistency that you perform. It's the issue. It's like. Ain't no nigga saying that you don't make wild ass decisions.
Right.
Like niggas can make really like anti nigga decisions for sure. But do you keep making them? And then you call it your life or fucking professional career. It's like the difference between did you actively become the fucking police or did you actually become a nurse and now you are the police? It's like the difference is knowing sure where power lies and how it plays out, but it also is to be able to understand your movement in the cogs of the shit. It's like, look, nigga.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay,
this is short in even defense of black police officers, for example. But it's to say that, nigga, while you on your fucking job, what do you do? Like, what do you fucking do? Right. And it's not to trust that you could be a good one. That's not even what the fuck I'm asking for, because good police kill niggas.
Right, okay.
I don't want a good cop.
Yeah, no, that's real. That's real.
I want a niggerish cop at best.
That's exactly
right. Which is to say that badge don't own you and you don't own it.
Exactly, right.
That disallegiance to the bitch now produces possibility, or what I would contend, impossibilities for niggerish moments. To be like, hey, yo, you could pull up. You could scare all the niggas who actually have been extorting all of the niggas on this block. All of the little niggas that are like under 14 and they stealing their lunch money before they hit the block and then selling drugs and the old lady shit. Sure. I'm not saying remove this nigga because his access to fucking economics is illicit. I'm saying that the nigga is causing unique fucking economic violence to little niggas that's calling actual traumatic violence to be like, I'm afraid of fucking black people. And there needs to be intervention, and usually that intervention can only happen with a fucking gun. Now, granted, because you got a badge, you're more likely to have one of those.
Right.
That is the only reality that I'm speaking to, and not because the police force says that you have to have a quota to lock up niggas. No, you shouldn't do that.
Okay, that I really like that distinction.
Because I'm making the same one about teachers too. Like they're not fucking benign. Them bitches can definitely cause you fucking hell. And inflict the worst kind of fucking anti-blackness, just like the medical profession. My point here is that like everybody can become the fucking police. Right. They can become agents of anti-black like proximate violence.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And so like if that's true, it's like what the fuck do we do? Mom and dads can do the same shit. My point is to challenge them to literally look at their lives as black people and say, do we really have to live it as people? Right, and contend what the fuck people is, which is a set of relationships that you agree to tacitly about how you're gonna move with your niggas. That shit is gross. Being able to like observe that means that there's not a smoothness, but it's a risking of every moment to be unfucking smooth. Right, and what is it? The Song of Solomon words, right? It is to employ niggas to take advantage and disadvantage of every moment. Right, the disadvantage part is the thing that black people usually don't mess with because, as you said, that shit messy. Right? To navigate what is for the free.
Yeah, no, I exactly get that part, yeah.
I don't got no laws for how niggas gonna come for me about this shit. Right? This is all black capitalists being like, my family asking me for money. Bitch, that's boundaries, nigga. Right. But that's also messy.
It is, yeah.
Right, but that messiness is really important to navigate because what black life ain't fucking messy? Nigga or not. That's kind of my point. It's like, nigga,
that's real.
If you got 3 bitches in a monogamous society, messy. But yeah, it's okay to fuck with that, but not niggas? That's crazy. And all the black women you fucking, all the women you fucking are black, that's crazy. Or you fucking all of those women, regardless whether they black with a black dick, that's crazy. It's like, come on, nigga, you having black sex, and that's the shit you can't negotiate. For me, that is the point, which is, niggas pick and choose. how the fuck you not pick and choose about other shit?
That's good.
There's a whole bunch of shit that we can't pick and choose about as niggas. But how and what we can tend our relationships with, most definitely we can pick.
Okay, I like, that pick and choosing is really good.
I'm just like, I believe in black non-choice, sure. But that non-choice is about shit that white people have already made their minds up about. That's not how you have your relations. Where you stick your dick at and how you do it, nigga, that's on you.
Okay. This is an interesting question because I guess to me it was part like, nah, I didn't know. Okay. And then part of it was like still a question. So I guess the first part is like, who created the possibility for there to be a positive association with black performance? And then if by niggas, and I mean black performance more in terms of like, for instance, like you like reappropriating nigga, for example. Like, you know, to me it's like, you know, they use this, you know, through experience and, you know, their everyday lives, you know, and things like that. And then, you know, it picks up, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, there's this positive association with black performance. And so it's like, should black performance be like valued by non-niggas? Like, should, like, and I'm thinking about this in the debate context. It's like, should it be valued by non-niggas?
Alright. So, in the marketability of this shit, like, nigga, I go to debate camps and I sell this across the shit. I can't really be like, no. But what you're really asking me is how the fuck do you sell black performance to non-niggas? Like, obviously they want it, and there has to be a way, because there's no ethical way to do anything in this world. But you're asking me, like, how the fuck do you do that within some parameters that mean something?
Okay, I guess the bottom part of the debate part where you're talking about the phobic, philic stuff, you know, I
mean, but to give you, like, a little bit more purchase to this shit, it's like, yes, debate handles are important. I think that the use of performance is like nigga in a lot of ways, but I also think yes, and yes to a degree, right? Like yes squared or yes cubed, if you will, when I say degree, because it's like yes, the handle should be used. Partly because it's timely at the moment. I think the niggas will find something else once they feel like that shit has expired. Which is to say that it's also like nigga. I'm not wed to nigga. I think the nigga will expire just like Negro did. Right? But it took a while for that shit to shake.
It did.
Right? And so like, I'm just like...
It did. That's real.
And in some ways it didn't shake completely. So, to think about that, it is to say that niggas is always making new shit. It is to hearken to, it was this citation I pulled from one of the earlier chapters in Die Nigga Die, where it's like, what is black tomorrow will be gray in 2 years. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. For me, it's the most generous version of the fucking Adorno shit. It is not to say that shit is a carbon copy and it don't mean shit. But it's to say that things have expiration dates because things are not cyclical. Actually. Right? And because they have expiration dates, it don't mean that shit won't be back in style, but it does have an expiration date due to the proximity of the situatedness of beings that are articulating the times. And I'm just like, okay.
Right.
And so,
okay.
Grounding that shit now, I'm just like, I think that is something that allows for me to say that, hey, yo, sure, we should teach this, and I think that it should be a platform that helps. Partly because what performance debate does, even outside of black hands, is to speak to the moments at hand with the violence of black life in contention. Right, which is to say that, like, performance debate, plus or minus pessimism, has always had a truth-telling element.
Right, definitely.
We just couldn't contextualize how folks would tell the truth in front of blackness. Like, that was the shit. Like, I'm pretty sure you had early rounds where niggas would just be like, I'm gonna tell you the truth about how racism works.
That's right.
And they just be like, my life, my life, my life, my life. Hey, are we friends now? And you be like, bitch, what? You told me you're avid fucking racist. What the fuck you mean are we friends now? Like, this shit weird. You use me as a black confessional. Like, oh my God. And it felt like a urinal, which is gross. Like, bitch. You gave me all of your waste and nothing you wanted to hold nor have and say, hey, bro, hold that. Because you're black. I was like, oh my God. And so, for me thinking about what does performance debate do for white people, it's like, context. All of, for example, the NDT rounds that were won by black people, the final rounds, all of those rounds required performance debate.
Yeah.
There's not one that didn't.
Definitely. Yeah.
And because it requires it requires black energy to force civilians, people, humans in proximity to look at themselves. Insert man in the mirror right here. Right? It does never say nigga in the mirror. Never. That nigga says never nigga in nobody's mirror. Partly because the nigga's always reflexive. Like, literally, they pour into themselves. That's why people hate niggas. Y'all always doing that nigga shit. It's like, what is the nigga shit? Well, what niggas do, right? Well, what do niggas do? Well, niggas do niggas. It's like, literally, niggas like, what the fuck? But that's why they're hated.
Right.
Right? They're not on the same type of time as everyone else. Like, literally, this is the shit. And it's like, I'm not saying that, like, niggas is special, but they non-humans. And, well, I don't really have no other, like, proxy to give credence to that, because every time we say non-human, we think of shit that can't speak English.
Right.
Or any language for that matter.
That's real.
And I'm just like, yeah, bro.
That's true. Yeah.
I think it's kind of wild for y'all to be like, we will give credit to humans creating shit like Latinos, but won't give credit to the idea that, like, niggas are just not full-fledged humans. That shit, it boggles the fuck out. You created a whole race of humans according to your fucking conquest. Literally. These niggas didn't exist before and then insert certain time period. Like, my nigga. Like, y'all literally created these motherfuckers. And then y'all like, nah. We created these other motherfuckers, so we ain't gonna speak to them. It's bitch. Okay. That shit wild as fuck to me.
That's it. Okay. Now, when you're saying when you're talking about the way black performance is, like, the way it gets deployed and, like, how the nigginess is not really what gets, is not really what's shown. I guess I'm thinking about the part where you're quoting Shannara and you're like, in the part where she's like, you only want, like, the blackness, of us and stuff.
Shout to Liz, man.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking about that in relationship to, I guess, like, I'm like one of those bears. I'm like, oh, okay, da. To me, I think the biggest thing that I would think about in response to the article is, like, what is happening now in relationship to, and yeah, it can be, and like sure, it can definitely be this thing where it's like, it hasn't happened enough, and, like, okay, what are we gonna do? But it's like, for instance, it's like, black teams have won the NDT and CETA a plethora of times. And so when you make this argument about the nature of what's required, like the energy that's required to participate in debate, and this argument about black performance in relationship to this argument about, like, what black people are willing, like, what debate community is willing to take from black people. And so I guess I'm wondering, like, what is that, like, why is that relationship not changing in relationship, with your discussion about time? It's like, why is that not a response to that?
It's probably perfecting, but that perfection is not a change.
Okay.
Right? Which is to say, like, for example, why isn't Shannara obsolete in coaching?
Okay.
Not necessarily because she's keeping up with the times,
right?
But literally the experiences to participate when she participated are still relevant to today. True. Because there hasn't been a change.
Right.
Like,
okay.
change means that we can't get back tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
There's literally not an epoch that we have seen where anti-black violence is not something that we can always have space to talk about. Every topic fucking proves that we're not talking about the end of the year, black people, black participation. It's not talking about the anti-blackness that can be contingent in the literature of the topic. But they're talking about the demonstration of the preclusion, for example, of niggas in the topic as an act of anti-blackness on every topic.
Okay. Are you when you're talking about that right there? Are you when you mention the topic paper? Are you trying to say that that argument you were saying a little bit earlier about how like it always stops at like it doesn't like it doesn't like consider the nigga, and so like are you like saying that the topic because you're making that topic argument about like the way it tries to, include, right.
I'm not like
gesture towards K-teens, basically.
Right, like I'm not asking for inclusion. This is not, hey, yo, include better. Include more ethically. Concession. Don't believe in ethics. Not really. Not in the way in which humans, dilapidate that shit on to niggas. No, I don't. So, like, it's not an argument for inclusion, but it is to say that, hey, yo, FYI, in order to make your topic every year, you preclude niggas. Every year, and you do this, like, literally. There's not a year that I've either been in debate or have been a participant that I haven't made this argument. On the negative, it's hyper fucking persuasive, which is every time you say black people, you actually don't know who the fuck those people are. That was the first reiteration of that argument.
That's real.
The second tier of that argument was, hey, yo, describe the conditions of those black people that you claim to fucking save in your app. And it's like, what? Hold up. You can't even tell me which one of your authors are black. That's crazy. Okay, then the next layer of that shit is, it's not that you then void black scholarship on this question in favor of your own, but you never considered it in the fucking first place. So, for example, even if you're taking conservative methods, you bitches void people like Juan Williams, who'd be a great answer to all that pessimistic shit from a black person. Like, you just don't. You literally just are now starting to do that by reusing fucking Gordon and weaponizing that bitch ass nigga against niggas. But he never liked niggas in the first place. He only liked black people. His contingents or ethics about how that shit shake is also fairly fucking gross. Okay. But who got time to like treat us this nigga? Like, nigga, not I said this, Negro.
Okay. Now that's interesting you say that because the way that you connect Gillespie. And then I'm thinking about Gillespie, and I'm thinking about your, like, when you were talking about in the introduction, and you mentioned, Niggatry to talk about the relationality between, all these different contexts about, to me it seemed like a moment where you were trying to say, like, even it's not just like a U.S. thing, it seemed like there was a moment there, So.
Yeah, I mean, that, the Niggatry shit and to talk about the relative nature really comes from, funny enough, like a Judy argument, which is like he makes this like it's like a really flippant shit he says, but I feel like me and Amber harped on it for years. Where it was just like, it's bunch theory, right? There's never a group. It's not a group of niggas. It's a bunch.
Right.
And to say that relative nature about how you derive who's a nigga, put a nigga next to a nigga and watch you find more niggas.
That's real. Yeah.
Which is also to say that like Gillespie's reading, when he say black people, nigga, he talk about Lil Scooter. The whole entry of that shit is about how niggas got into a parking lot and was singing his fucking music as that nigga died. And what does that do for scaring away the fucking police as a real live tactic? Because the niggas was, those police was so fucking afraid to touch those niggas. It was like, wait till y'all finish. We ain't got on that. Seen that shit happen with some Boosie fucking music. It's like, nigga.
Right.
And it's not to say black music has this effect. No, that's niggas.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah.
But that's usually the thing that will get captured. And it's like the reason why I then autocorrect all the shit that John says about black people, because he's not talking about black people. Like, John is literally talking about niggas that whole way through. And it's like, there's a whole bunch of black scholars who have to mask themselves.
Right,
and it's like I'm kind of hearkening to them too. That's why I'm a little bit more generous to them in this piece than I am in the thesis writing of Niggatry, because I'm like, basically, y'all fucking that money up.
Yeah, right.
Like, y'all ain't shit.
Yeah, I definitely went there.
And here I'm not doing that because I'm trying to be like, these sets of non-decisions in a lot of ways are ones that we're trapped by. And it's like, nigga, well, you know that you can't be the most niggerish version of yourself when you're on that job interview. But that's where you see all them fucking memes where it's like on the job interview and they show the nigga from William, was it the nigga William from Girlfriends? And then once you got the job, bitch, you money bag yo for real. Like with all the tats and shit, hey bitches, what's good? And it's like, that's niggerish shit.
Yeah.
And for me, that means that you can go and be the president for all we give a fuck.
Right.
But in reality, how niggerish can your president be?
Okay.
So I believe in like small time integration. Like you can go be the mayor. But I don't know if Obama get to be a whole nigga for real. They niggerized the shit out of him. I think the inverse happened. It's like, bitch, you took smoking cigarettes and a layup as some nigga shit. Like, y'all worse than the fucking Bill Clinton shit and being like, oh, he played saxophone and he fucked bitches. Like, he gotta be black now. It's like, I think that both of that shit's gross. But all of those require, for example, the liquidation of blackness and then, like, the recusing of black life and black bodies to say that shit is true. It's like, what? Obama ain't lived black until he used the Harold Cruz model to become blackly elected to office. Like, the fuck?
Right.
Let's keep it a being, because if you're asking what was his Harold Cruz model about, which is soliciting black people over other folks to get elected into office, like, what were your concerns for those black people? We'll never hear those.
Yeah, no.
We literally never hear those, and they're assumed when going for the presidency. We literally never hear those. And it's like, nigga, what?
Yeah.
If niggas don't know who the fuck Harold Cruz is, it would just be like a whoo, we don't know shit. And it's like, that shit blow me. It's like, oh, bro, you are hand waving to blackness. I'm literally writing the new shit now that is speaking to, that's how you sell niggas. Like, you literally, blackness. And then you be like, all right, all of you niggas who signed up, I'm going to sell you this to improve your black experience. For me, that's wild as fuck. Like, wild as fuck. It's like not Kamala Harris talking about crime rates.
Right.
Like, is that not Oprah and all of her bullshit? Like, read these books.
Right.
Like the white, like I'm telling white people to do. Like, that's what it signifies. It's like, come on, yo.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, this is interesting. This is what I guess maybe you are doing this, but I was thinking about it. So, like, I was thinking about when you were talking about nigga potential, under, like, violence, you know, under the umbrella of violence. And so it seems to me like violence is pushing niggas, like, in this weird, perverse way, to be more creative, right? And so, with labor, it seems like labor and social value systems fail at being able to deal with those acts of potential as liberation, right? And so, in this world where you're not accepting external criticism, you know, as like intrinsic to this whole nigga potential thing, why is failure here sort of theorized as like obscuring that potentiality, or like not like a side of nigga relations? Like failure is like a good thing to, you know, like investigate, like as like a like, you know, yeah. Because I the only reason I thought of it was, you know, I just thought of failure as like a affirmative thing. So
for me, I think of failure, and this is in the context of niggas. I think of failure on like a multi-tier facet, which is niggas fail, but not because they actually fail.
Yeah, exactly.
The diagnosis is, for example, people ascribe niggas as being habitually lazy.
Right.
I don't really know too many niggas who is. Partly because in order to be a whole nigga, you got to do a whole bunch of shit to survive. That's hard.
Right. Yeah.
Fuck. Stick any other race of nigga in the space that niggas are actually in, and they will quail.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so, like, I'm like, there is so much to what failure look like as niggas. And I'm just like, well,
okay, yeah.
Nigga failure, if we're taking it from the perspective of niggas, I already know what they look like. Yeah. Other than trying.
Oh, trying. Yeah,
literally
trying.
Yeah,
you did. Yeah,
right. If you're going to be like, oh, what could niggas do? Niggas could try, but I think that's also a failure. Like, if I tried to feed my family, nigga, did I do it?
Right.
No. Yeah. But the attempt. My point here is that nigga attempt also should be valuable. And like, there's usually not a value to nigga attempts actually at all.
That's real.
Other than to be like, that shit is a failure. Like, like literally, it's like, oh, that shit trash, bro. And it's like, I actually think that that's wild as fuck. Because niggas feeding families, if I pose that same question not to black people but to niggas, they can fail at feeding their family. It means that's a question of consistency. That's not a question of did you.
Right.
Like usually that's literally it's like, can I make that consistent? It's like the terms of failure is by human terms at that point, which is consistent ways to feed families, not by our own nigga standards, which is, did I do it today?
Right.
Yes. Can I do it tomorrow? Maybe.
Maybe, right, yeah. We'll see. Yeah. Okay.
We'll see. That's all iteration of until. Okay. Right, throughout the shits, and it's like, I'm sticking with niggas to be like, there's a thing. I'm attempting to speak to a primordial ordering of niggas and not white people. Whenever we speak to, like, academia or anything, actually, we assume people first, black people second. We're talking about black people, and then if at all, niggas.
Right. Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, how about fuck that shitty ass chain of command? Flip, niggas first, and everyone else maybe. Yeah. Okay. It's like niggas over everything. It's like sure.
Okay. Now I'm gonna kind of do some wild questions because I had some
I'm with
erroneous thoughts. Okay, so
erroneous thoughts.
I guess this is coming from a perspective that I'm thinking about where obviously this is very bastardized version of what anything you're writing about.
Okay.
But in a nutshell, why is this not like it seems like, and I guess this is going back to like our conversation when we were talking about like, healing maybe. And so it's like, why it's seeming like, what is this relationship between violence and like through examples of like, I want to say like I kind of want to talk about I'm kind of maybe talking about the black woman, securing the bag, but I think I'm more talking about like I guess I'm more talking about ethics, morality. Why should there be a lack of those things outside of the fact that, and I'm getting parts of this conversation that we're having right now that's like, I'm seeing that. But it's like, why should there be a lack of morality and ethics in this world where you're also having this critique of capitalism? Because to me, when I think about the theory, I'm just thinking about it as it plays out more so, right? So I'm thinking about it where it's like there are niggas and there are all these niggas in this intramural space and they're all doing, they're all being niggas and they feel, for this moment, pretty cool in this relation. And then there's a gesture from all these niggas to then go out and feel this intrinsic moment of, put respect on my name to all these things, and, and they're going to secure their bags, insert the securing of the bag. And so I'm thinking about those things just on a larger scale. And so I'm thinking about it like, let's say just a collection of just like, like today in fucking India, there was like the largest gathering for meditation. Let's say it was like 20,000 niggas just got together and just started doing nigga shit and, going to do what they wanted. And so I'm thinking about that in relationship to your critique of, capital R reason. And I'm thinking about that in relationship to like black capitalism. And so I'm saying like, why is this not a black power move? Yeah.
Oh my god, that was a fucking great question.
Yeah.
And nigga asked me, why am I not a black nationalist?
Yeah,
essentially. Without fucking, ethical, without a economic handle on how we're to exchange things. Morality and ethics. Why should niggas play by the rules? When literally those are the thing that has bound them to be undesirable, shitty, and fucked up. Secondly, you're asking what could an individual set of niggas do in any given moment. My lit not to inform every moment, because you have to take the little reason as the thing that informs every moment. I probably can do a better job of just having a piece about that, right? To explain why this is a decision-making frame that produces niggatry and then not nigga liquidation by the same time.
Right, okay, yeah.
Right, and so the line that I'm trying to draw is that line is very fine. And I think that I am producing, and not by like laundry list of rule number, Uncle Clifford's rule number 365 type shit, right? I'm not going that far, but I am going to be like, niggas do exist in these impossible ways that are unimaginable by current standards of life. This includes by the contentions of racial capitalism. So sure, we at times have to use the vectors, but I'd say this in terms of finessing shit, right?
Okay, yeah.
Niggatry is an example of niggas finessing the moments to produce like nearby futures for niggas. I'm not saying that those nearby futures are going to be exponentially fucking better, right? Never made that claim. But do make the claim that when we're talking about the moving around of potential violence, well, nigga, it does do that. Even if you go from the front to the back of that bitch. The vantage point is important to how niggas experience that violence. And for me, I'm just like, well, nigga, those women getting a bag didn't undo the violence of getting kicked off the train as the dishonorable subject. It doesn't unvalidate, for example, the claims of unworthiness that are then insulted as one got kicked off the train, or the fucking like ability to then sell one's image as a black free space after the fact. None of those things are auto-corrected via, bitch, I sued you. And the whole world know it because it got published in the article. Hence, my black ass can find it to put it in this bitch. It don't do nothing for that. But it's to say that, it's to speak to how these black people weren't immobilized by anti-black violence. That is the part that I'm trying to get at, because niggas won't follow the direction of anti-black violence, which is to suggest that, bitch, do what the fuck I told you to do. Whether it be it's libidinal in terms of like philic or phobic, nigga, all of that shit says do what the fuck I told you to do. One says keep producing like I told you to do, how I like it, or one says fuck you, die like how I told you to die. Either way. Thinking about that as a response is like, yes, I think that my notions of gravity towards care also start to get at just how niggas are supposed to pattern those movements. I am concerned about how niggas pattern movements. I'm not just saying just because you're a nigga, your patterns is pristine, my nigga. We should just then control see your shit. Insert Charles's fucking, critique of iconography here. Because I don't think that we should then put niggas as that replacement pedestal to then just marry, like mirror and model. Like, niggas don't need role models. What we need is belief in how life can be lived outside of the fucking human. Every time you've given niggas, not a nigga, but niggas the opportunity to do that in space, I'm betting on them 1,010%. Sure, they fail. But nigga, that bet on them is actually better for me as a black person, because if we say that we're moving in our interest, that is in my interest that those niggas do things. Sure, you might hit me with the, that's a good faith question, nigga. You believe in the niggas? What else I got? Like, was it Calvin Warren? What else I got, bro? It's not cruel optimism to believe in niggas. That's the best criticism I can muster / heard thus far. And it's like, if that's what you got, that's anti-black, bro. Like, I really know that. Because if that's true, I would have died a long time ago. Like, I wouldn't have been born. Like, a nigga wouldn't have had me to have me. Like, nigga, what the fuck is you talking about? Like, niggas been doing nigga shit since niggas been doing nigga shit.
True.
So, like, for me, it is not a black nationalist move, because there's also no referendum on how niggas move genderly. So, for example, nigga don't mean black man. And because it's not a aspiration to any of those politics. And in fact, I'm literally trying to move to a gender non-conforming ethic because niggas don't follow fucking directions. Right? And to say that niggas have always moved like that. And it's only through liberalism that we learned that we can do it like everyone else does it. And it's like, bitch, we learned the language for that shit thanks to fuck around with y'all, but the reason why we don't have the language in the first place is fuck around with y'all. So it's like, bitch, I'd rather just trust me instead of y'all. Fuck that. Like,
yeah.
Because that was, that, and for me, that action or that motion is like, the difference is peeping the footwork, essentially, right? Like, if I had to boil it all down to, like, what is the difference between, you know, reason with a cape on and the little reason? Well, it's not just because black people live their lives in the little man, like Lil Zane, Lil Bow Wow. No. Right, but it's to say that that littleness introduced to white life makes no fucking sense. How the fuck you go from Lil Bow Wow to Bow Wow? It's just not because you're little, like actually young in age, nigga. It really is a question of like, and I find this like fucking hilarious because the Baltimore extraction of that same shit is LOR. Nigga. And they're talking about not youth. Right, but they're talking about small spacing, like taking up small space. Right, like you're not small in stature, but like nigga, you're not big in character either. Right, like, and that's what they're talking about. It's like,
okay.
And like, it is to speak to sure gender dynamics to some degree, because nigga, hey little mama, but it's lore, because niggas don't open up their mouth in Baltimore. But it's like that kind of description for me is the move to peeping the footwork, because all of that difference is and this is also the shit I tried to fight when writing this, is like, people think that niggas are counter to humans. Right. Fucking fail. Like, fail. Niggas been niggas before humans be humans. Because human is a practice that you learn. It is why you can see fucking 5-year-olds not care about race. And not because they don't see it. It's because there's no proxy for understanding the consequences of that shit. Not until people say, hey, yo, insert all of the shit that they say. Right, yeah. Like, nigga, I had me a little white friend named David all the way until his older brother said nigga. And then my older brother beat his older brother with a brick. It's like, that's when I learned the consequences of what that shit looked like. Minus that shit, all I seen was lynching videos. And so, it is at the moments of when you introduce, for example, nigginess to the possibility of black life, that black life understands just how much of a nigga it already is. Right. Like, inversely understood is the Paul Mooney shit when he's like, everybody want to be a nigga till it's time to be a nigga. Right, yeah. Well, what if you can only be a nigga? That's not a decision you get to make. Right. Like, that's what I mean by non-decisions, but like, when we think about that in terms of like programming for political platforms and shit like that, whether it be conventional or non-conventional, black nationalist or otherwise, black power, because all of them niggas in some form or fashion did any of this like broadcasting, if you will. That's kind of the thing I'm suggesting that's kind of not endemic to niggas. You start telling a group of niggas what directions they should follow and watch what the fuck happens. Like, and it's my favorite shit to do because it's like, if you didn't make it contextual, it don't matter. Literally, niggas will disavow. I don't give a fuck. That's true. And it's like, that for me is really important to thinking about how do you care for niggas and care with niggas. Because it's like, I'm not going to take a pejorative fucking position to niggas like I know best. I don't. Right? And that's also the slippery slope of when you ask me about failure, it's like, nigga, failure is endemic to niggas too. But it's a question of nigga failure don't mean nigga demotion, devalue, or like breaking up of oneself to be like, I'm not valuable no more. I ain't worth shit. It's like, this shit happens all the fucking time, but that's because the humanity says if you don't have these things, you ain't worth shit. Right? And that's also why the move towards capitalism as an ethic of relief from genocide is also not fathomable by niggas. No nigga think that selling any nigga or anything in this niggerish ass world is going to resolve the fucking intensity that they feel. Right. You can't get rich enough to not be a nigga. But will you understand niggas a consequence or a way to live? Not a lifestyle, but a way to live. That's a difference, and it's like, that's a difference that I feel like this piece is arguing in favor of, because niggas are usually seen as not fucking desirable. Like, I literally am going through graduate school and the discussion of niggas is never desirable. Partly because most of them are fucking white people. And they don't desire to sit quiet on conversations that they have no purview to. But like, literally it's a thing. It's like, nigga, I can even expand it to niggas and natives And literally that conversation does not get broader, does not invite more people. And that's a problem for me.
Right.
Not because I want invitations to be sent out to all of these motherfuckers, but literally the invitation to not speak of nigga is one to devalue, uncarve, fuck up, however you want to explain the violence that you can occur to black life and black death in general.
Right.
That's the part that I'm responding to, because it says that you never consider what the fuck's at stake for niggas that you void. That's my larger issue with any of those things. And so when we say the like political platforms, it's like the closest I get is George James's conception of the captive maternal as a political endorsement that I can stand by as a nigga. But even in that shit, it could get a little bit gross, because how she even describes, for example, George Jackson being the captive maternal for Angela Davis is to prove that George Jackson was a nigga. And that captive maternals are nothing but niggas. And so when you move in that kind of realm, it's like if you're not moving in those spaces, it's like I can't really endorse the other things. It's like shit I can endorse historically is probably Ella Baker and her movements. Partly because she moved as a nigga and didn't behold, for example, the relationality to black life to some other standard besides what the fuck's in front of her. Right? She cared about the situatedness of the nigga she talking to. For me, that is the thing that helps it not be demarcated to we're going to be pro-black and get the bag. It's like, nigga, my whole hearkening or relationship to the bag is to understand that things in reference to black life always have to extend to just more than cash or capital. So getting the bag and fumbling it,
right, yeah.
that bag could be you, bitch. Which as you get the bag and tumble it, I think it's a little bit different. And that tumble really is, I'm gonna shake shit up, my nigga. Like if you watch Dope, like the whole question about when he goes to the little Asian nigga and he's like, hey y'all, sell these bags. And he's giving him an authenticity check for the question. It's like the thing that's being held in contention with niggas is not, is you authentic to the world? Right? Because that's the question of, are you human? Are you authentic to niggas? Right? And that's the question of care. That's the thing that I'm getting at. And it's like, nigga, I know when you're not authentic to niggas, hence we can reenact whose side you on, when you literally don't give a fuck about niggas. And the giving a fuck is literally like, did you unthink them? Like, for comforts of humanity. Fuck niggas. Da, da, da. We know how this shit works. Niggas go out the box to be like, fuck niggas. And it's like that, for me, it's like, that's why I can't, there is no endorsement via this piece or any of the other shit I write that gets you there. Because I've been in black nationalist organizations that organize from, here's what the right type of blackness is, here's the model of blackness that we're going to promote, and without that kind of relationality, quote unquote, here, it doesn't work. And I'm like, hold up. We gotta fuck, marry, and kill to win what you say in order for this to shake? And I immediately think of people like my brother not being able to be included in those kind of vectors, because he immediately is going to be like, so y'all feeding me now? 5 minutes later, so you're feeding me now? 5 more minutes later, you're feeding, no? Fuck out of here, suck my dick, nigga, I'm out. You're not putting no money in my pocket, because without money I can't go nowhere. No? Fuck you, I'm not listening to your political program, nigga. It's like, what do you do with that? So fuck him? And this is all the, even if we just caveat all that black Marxist shit, all the, like the black nationalist shit, it's like, nigga, there's not an organization that starts actually from the bottom. No one thinks about the niggas who are unemployable.
That's true.
Zero. Not a movement in history that do it. They assume that all of those niggas got some type of mobility, effort, that can be produced into labor. Literally, that shit is gross to me. And I'm like, niggas been working their whole life. What if they decide to say fuck you today and tomorrow?
True.
Do you still have space for them? No. I'm Gucci. Like, it's why the piece is written with fucking Earth, Wind, and Fire quotes to include this is for niggas of all generations.
that was a part. I was like, I did like that shit. That was good. I guess, you know, a lot of the things, let's see, I think I have, let's see. Maybe I see, okay, I see I got 2 more. Okay, so one of these is kind of like, maybe it's like, you know, it's kind of like a, you know, like, or maybe I should have asked it earlier, but I guess I kind of understand it. But I guess this is more of like a blunt question that I feel like is interesting. It's like not. I think that maybe theoretically thinking about like white accumulation makes sense in terms of like, you know, being like their, you know, the way that they've constructed their identity has afforded them the, you know, all of these things, right? And so like that they magnetize and they bring to their world, right? And so that also includes violence, of course, XYZ. But I guess what I'm thinking about is if we're thinking about, I guess I'm kind of thinking about death as like a primarily an intrinsic part of life, right? I'm thinking like, you know, you like life, like death is attached to life, right? And so those two things are like coterminous. So I'm thinking about it in terms of like when you are born, you're then, you know, death is that, like there's a finality to your life. I guess the last thing I was going to, two things. So I'm talking about death as an intrinsic part of life. And since it is part of life, I guess I have this thought personally about Black studies overall, where it's like, I think it's like, and for, you know, maybe for good reason, that is obsessed with death, you know, to some degree. And so I'm thinking about in terms of this obsession with death, and I'm thinking about, like, just bluntly, why do you think niggas are entitled to everything? Yeah, it seems like that is where it is. And so I'm just thinking of
Say
it
more.
like...
Say more. I'm fucking with it.
I'm thinking about it just like in terms of like, you know... I mean, if I'm liberal, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, like, violence is a universal thing. Sure, it happens, and it's, you know, there's epochal moments, and so that's when I thought about it. I was like, oh, you know, like, you know, that makes sense. And this thing you were saying about the creation of niggas, I think is really good, because I think the creation part kind of like dives off from, you know, it is kind of what Wilderson's saying when he's talking about the shit, but the way you said the creation of niggas was like made it clear that about the way that you were thinking about just, you know, niggas in relation to, I guess, like, you know, like to death, you know. And so I thought about that makes sense. But I guess what I'm saying is more like, if there's all these moments where other people and races and shit are experiencing all of this violence, and they're also engaged in all these efforts to, like, you know, get these things back, et cetera, then who becomes, like, is there a line for who becomes the collateral to Niggatry? And, like, and that's where I guess where my entitlement stuff is coming from. Yeah.
Sure. That's funny. Yeah, that's a roundabout way to ask that.
Yeah. It was like, you know, I had different shit, and I was like, I was just trying to connect it because I was like,
I mean, no.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh shit! Damn. My knee-jerk reaction is to be like, first off, that's a great ass question. You're two in this hole, nigga. Like, you're fucking me up back to back. But I do think that niggas are entitled to everything, because there's not a thing in this world that niggas didn't help make.
Okay. Right, that's real.
I don't. Quiz me, my nigga.
Yeah, no.
And I think we can leave the Western Hemisphere, and I'm going with. Nigga with the conceited meme with the face poked out and shit, like, nigga, I don't know. I really don't know, my nigga. Or that little nigga at the little Popeyes commercial rubbing his belly, being like, Cause like I'm stuck at, if it wasn't directly nigga labor, then it had to be the extraction of said such. I don't know. And my example of this at the very basic understanding is, all right, cool. Once we start moving away from white expressions of happiness, like literally express what it means to, and then say joy and all the other shit. Once we move and exhausted what are just white terms, the world has then kept up to date with how joy is operated through extractions of black life. The world literally knows what joy is through cool nigga shit. Very early on nigga shit. Right, to demonstrate, for example, the 2-year minimum. Fly, fat, YOLO. Nigga, like literally we're moving for, as I shift, those are just time periods. That's not that those words don't mean the same shit. Right. They're literally just time periods. And so, when we think about this entitlement question, I was like, the things that I think that niggas should be entitled to is life and death. That's what I really do. Okay. When I say the niggas should stay black and die, it's to affirm those as co-constitutional like you did. My argument is that violence happens at the site of both of those, though. And I actually think that academia and / the world is really insightful about black life and not black death. They say very little, even though they are tending to violence. They never contended that violence is absolute death for black bodies. Like, never that it's terminal. They're like, oh, whoa, it's episodic at the very least. If they're attending to the violence and they're not like, it's death, it's like niggas have died. Niggas will die doing X, but not, niggas will die while living. Like, infant mortality rates for niggas actually are not real. And because they're not real, they're disproportionately showing how black death is not on the rise. What the fuck, nigga? In every century, that shit should be eclipsing one another. But we don't never account for the differences in violence that I'm now speaking to. It's like, that's why niggas are entitled to everything, if I had to say. But what is everything? Life and death. Anything else other than that is not fucking valuable. It's made up by humans. And that's kind of my issue. Is like, when niggas literally live for anything else other than niggas, they're living for aspirational bullshit. Insert Kanye here about degrees. I'm a fucking PhD candidate. Like, this is the shit that I know my peers are trying to struggle away from. Right? Black or non-black. Like, niggas are moving away from, they're literally trying inch by inch not to sell their soul for their fucking degree. This is the struggle of every black lawyer going through law school, because going through corporate law is the fucking selling of one's soul and then admitting that you gotta sell other souls to get there. Them niggas will tell you that shit off break. Nigga, you go through law school without going through corporate law, and bitch, you plan to be broke, nigga, with all them fucking loans. So now it's a catch-22. It's like, my point here is that, like, hey, and I think that you raised this earlier question with the question of ethics. The reason why I don't believe that there's no ethics for niggas, because there's no ethical containment that actually speaks to what is owed to them. Like, what do niggas deserve? Every fucking thing. You ask me who niggas is? You asking the wrong fucking question. Like, you're literally like not tuned to the way in which the world has been made. And it's making itself over and over and over again. We can move to like future currencies with NFTs and see the Floydies question being the premises for not only sites of a primitive accumulation, but bitch, y'all using racist tropes to literally build a whole new fucking economy. What the fuck are we doing? Non-fungibilized tokens literally using black faces to produce dollars and currency, i.e. a fungibility method. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it was a weird name, yeah. I can't lie.
Yeah. And the nigga dead. You're exchanging his face for the same shit. But that's no different than the Clippers owner, Steve Baldwin, being like, hey, bro, we're going to buy up Nipsey Hussle's block because we know it's a viable economic venture that black people will fucking visit. So the day that Nipsey died, the memorial that they give is old English jerseys for the fucking Clippers. And literally that shit was fucking gross. And it's like, nigga, you agree to move the stadium to the whole block that nigga curated? That shit crazy! And it's not for the crazy of the sake. It's like, nigga, it actually then spits on the grave of this nigga because literally the grave that was put in front of his store was protected by the mass amounts of black people that went to go memorialize his ass and pushing the cops across the fucking street. With the removal of the stadium anywhere proximate to that bitch is going to literally reinforce cops and their presence to keep people safe from the same shit that you did relish on the fucking jerseys. Because what white people give a fuck about Old English without malt licking niggas? So, when we ask literally how's the world being built and the comforts and satisfactions of those same things, I just gave you a whole scenario where the Crenshaw district could do the same shit. And even if it's not coming to fruition because they can't push the city to generate the motherfucking plans to produce the stadium prices for half the fucking city, the threat of that bitch is just enough. And that's kind of my point. Like, you scared all of them fucking people into being able to, like, I'm pretty sure it still produced the selling of a whole bunch of black homes. Black, quote unquote. And it's like, this is my point where it's like, nigga, what? What are they owed? Nigga. I remember going to a critical race conference and niggas hit me with the, all right, as a black person, I was role playing this black woman. As a black woman, what are the things you think you're entitled by moving the bus stop in your community versus any other community? What was asked? And I was like, why are they owed anything? And niggas thought that was an absurd ass fucking question. And I was like, when I go to work with all of them, the tax I gotta pay is I'm always the last one or the one always first to be at fault. What the fuck makes you think that they deserve this tax when actually the functionality they put in the bus in my community means that I'm less likely to be late? But that's the thing you say about black people as a conditional effort for their appearance or rendering in public. What the fuck? So, yes, I think everything, because if we don't demand everything, even if I'm not old, none of that bitch is a nigga. We'll get nothing.
That's it, yeah.
And it's like, no. Wrap all the way around, nigga. If we don't literally gunpoint diplomacy these bitches, we'll end up eating our own hands. And I'm pretty Gucci on all of that. I told you the condition of niggas is to take everything that you could possibly own to feed mine.
Right, yeah.
And so when you ask the spoils of capitalism, it's like, ain't nobody asking for that. Right? Like, ain't nobody asking for that by no means, but being able to push some of those dynamics for niggas to be able to, like, at least risk moments of humanness for moments of niggas or moments with niggas. For me, that is the richness. That is the value. That is why niggas do it. If you ask niggas why do they go drink and smoke with their mans in them or the homies, or why they go do shit like cookouts, it's like, nigga, that shit usually is not economically advantageous for no nigga. Hence, there's songs about putting 5 on it. Like, nigga, that shit is not, like, economically advantageous for the whole group of homies, all 20 of these niggas that hit your one blunt, nigga? Not at all.
I'm scraping, okay.
But why niggas continually do that shit anyway? And for me, I don't think it's the same reason why niggas pass cigarettes. Right, but it is to say that, like, there is patterns of movements that literally comfort niggas. That comfort for me is the one to do at the expenses of other shit that they said provide comfort.
Right.
Like going to get drunk on a fucking train with my homegirls. Like if you could just be in the crib with some barefoot wine, shout out to you, shorty. Even though barefoot wine is poor and shitty and produced by white people that I actually know. Shout out to them. My major point is that, like, contending with niggas doing niggerish shit, cool. I'm with doing bald head nigga shit with my niggas. It actually speaks volumes to why, like, what is the value that we produce as opposed to stealing everything from the world to produce our own value. Like, it's like, was it the Invisible Man shit with the nigga with the light bulbs?
Yep.
He didn't really give a fuck about how much electricity he stole. He never marked it.
Sure.
There was never commentary about, bro, I stole billions of dollars worth of. No, he calculated it in, I stole the amount of electricity that it takes to literally light the neighboring neighborhoods near me. That's how he quantified that shit, which is to say it's all relative. And I'm like, yeah, no, I think I do a great job of explaining how niggas live relatively. Right, even though they're not relatives. No pun intended. I've been trying to play around that shit for a minute.
No, that's right.
Like insert some Uncle Ruckus shit. Like, no relation. But nigga, it's all relation.
Okay, let's see. I think this last one is interesting.
You got me out here thinking I should chop this up and make this an interview. And then release it the same day the article come out. Because I'm like, yo, your interview shit is like, not only is it fire, because obviously you contextualizing the shit and you took time and you thought about the shit, but like, the things you are asking me are things that a lot of people don't. If they had the space to ask it, they would ask it very weirdly.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely.
Right? And so, like, even your space to translate some of how you've been feeling or your notes about this shit is, like, very vulnerable. And I'm like, shout out to you, nigga. I don't think that other interviewers, even if they had read the piece, could pick up on the vulnerability that I'm asking my reader to have.
Yeah.
Like, I'm also demanding it. Like, when I'm giving you the Earth, Wind, and Fire quotes, if you're not as old enough to be like, hey, bro, that shit came out, what it's doing for you is it's sending you back to Saturday mornings with your peoples cleaning the fucking crib. Whether that's traumatizing or not, nigga, you can hear that music. And you like, oh, fuck. For me, I have a whole different reference. It's like that, plus I played all of this music in band. So, like, nigga, I remember each and every fucking note for the damn sousaphone being like, yeah, bitch, I can reason. Reason that we're here. It's like, yes, that shit used to play in my head rent-free for like 3 years and running, nigga. Like, what the fuck? And so, like, giving context, it's like, I also appreciate that you're giving life to an audience that I can only imagine with penning shit like this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sure, I might get some person older than 65 to read this shit, and it'd be cool as fuck. I'll have my
Right, that'd be dope, yeah.
But like, you are also of the age bracket that I expect to read this shit, and it's not like, you have not once been like, hey, y'all, I don't understand this bullshit.
No, yeah.
This shit, wow. I think you're reaching like a bitch, like top shelf head ass nigga, like, nigga, you got it. And instead, you're like, maybe I need a little bit more context for this when you said this shit, or I would like to hear your explanation about this kind of like description about this, that, and the third, because my general disposition is X, Y, and Z, and da. It's like, for me, that is what I was hoping that this yield. But then secondly, it also is like, give me a little bit more purchase to writing towards what I'm writing towards now. Because I also want to fill some of these gaps, and I'm like, the reason to record a lot of this is to be like, okay, in my downtime, I'm going to listen to what you thought about the framing of the things, which is a resecuring me as a writer, as a black writer. Who is a
definitely,
writer. Because the thing I don't get is, this was good.
Oh yeah, no, this is fire. Yeah, no, you got it fire. Yeah.
What I do get is, I'm glad you did a thing. Right, and so,
I totally got that. Yeah, no.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, of course.
I guess we kind of talked about this, but I guess the last thing I was gonna say was, I guess I'm thinking about it on behalf of the black people.
So it seems like, you're saying like the choice to render some to the human. I guess what you were saying, you were like, the human was created, and then the human fails on many levels at like, not just socially, but that's what I wrote, just like socially accommodating niggas, like what, like, or at least the way they do it is like, fungible, violent, liquidation, etc. But I guess when I'm thinking about that in the context of black people, it's like, it seems like in the world of niggatry, niggas are constantly like creating all these new rules for what it means to be a nigga, constantly, and so I guess what are you saying to the people who have cognitive dissonance with dealing with civility and nigginess? Like, it's like they're taking that step out, but it's like what you're saying, which I really like what you're saying, when you're like, it's about like, consistency and the choices you're making. But I guess to me, the thing I'm always thinking about is, yeah, the human is constructed, but, you know, we all have a psyche. You know what I'm saying? And so, on the level of conditioning and the level of, you know, I guess, like, niggas being able to, on some level... Yeah. On some levels, you know, they're... I don't know. It's like, I guess, like, for you, you know, maybe you're thinking about this in terms of, like, self-awareness, you know, in terms of niggatry, you know, it's like they're realizing, you know, they are a nigga, and so they're taking these moments to, you know, to consistently step out of this, you know, this moment of civility because, you know, they believe, they understand the, I guess, the assignment, you know, it's like, all right, I know what I have to do here, you know, and so I guess that juxtaposed to the black people who are consistently, you know, not doing that because of this relationship they have to maybe yes, still being met with death, but, you know, it seems like to them they're stepping out of it because there's a perception that, you know, more instances of what they would consider life are afforded to them as they step out of it.
I'm not a nigga who is dismayed by the spoils of respectability politics. So, having a suit and tie does a thing. But until it don't. Right? Which is to say, for example, we can take black people who are convicts.
Right.
Those people they could be a range of conservative.
Right.
Or fuck all of this. The ones who choose after incarceration to come out and be like, all right, I'm gonna put on my suit and tie, I'm gonna do everything I'm supposed to do. They usually drive themselves nuts. The two, because you made a psychological inference.
Yeah.
The two, I guess, theories that I can pull from that gives me a little bit more purchase, and I pervert one of them, so bear with me. Is this one from the psychologist who's theorizing what it means to come to grips with racism. And his name is William Cross. And he's describing that there's steps. Like the first one is to, accept that there's racism. And then, so forth and so forth.
Right,
and he's like describing basically a being who comes to grip or who's enlightened with the fact of racism. And then how you live your life after that. I think that black people are ascribing to this as well, to describe that they can people themselves away from anti-black racism.
Right, yeah.
Right, they can do enough shit in their life that moves them away from this. This is the opening scene to set it off, where, the shorty who comes up with the idea to rob the banks is a bank teller.
Yeah.
She do everything the fuck she's supposed to do, and she get fired. And it's like, that's kind of the belief that I'm checking, right? Is that the door, right? Where my father, for example, goes to the hospital because he's having breathing problems. And they sedate him, intubate him, put a trach in his throat, all types of shit. And this is after constraining him to like one of these constraint chairs. Without any of his consent. After he was able, willing enough to leave on his own, they still did all of this. And so for him to come to grips with, oh my God, the place, one of the very few places in this world that's supposed to be built to save me, literally tried to kill me.
Right, yeah.
Right, that is what I'm helping those black people come to grips with, because one of the spoils, for example, of civility is medical health care. Like, nigga, you deserve it.
Right, true.
Like, that's a right that's usually afforded. And I'm suggesting via the Farley shit, if this is a perfection that we're supposed to attend to, that we're supposed to believe in, that is the perfection that he's criticizing. Right? And so for me, it's like, well, how do you help black people who are afraid of genocidal efforts of this world to not be scared into doing what the fuck everyone else is doing to produce that genocide? Right, that's also the thing that I'm contending with, which is this active participation to that conquest it's not just land removal, right? It's scraping a fucking terraforming of people. Well, if it's terraforming of people, a part of that is to produce the civilian. Niggatry is an attack on that production as a smoothness, right? And to suggest, because you suggested earlier that black people know it's complicated, that complication for me is a win, right? Because it says that every decision is at stake when that is the thing, and not just today's set of decisions or the decision we have in this moment, right? And so the other theorist that I'm thinking about from your psychological perspective that gives purchase to this is I can only remember one of the names is Cobbs, but they're writing a treatise about black rage and how the stifling of black rage has psychological violent effects to black life, meaning that like they're seeing this from a perspective of what is the legal justification for the black rage defense, which is I momentarily lost my fucking mind and killed you because you said some racist shit, like nigga, or worse. Right, like you justified lynching, for example, on site, and I was like, bitch, I'm not gonna be lynched, I killed you. Right. Those kind of discussions in the court of law, for them, was a psychological one, right? And for me, I understand this. Remove it back from the law. Don't need that law to understand that those effects happen to black people, and the justifications for doing something about that are serious. That seriousness is the thing that not only employs my work, right, but it's the thing that I think that I have to offer to black people who are at this indecision or sets of indecision moments. Meaning, like, black people are usually faced with this because they have not decided that they don't have to have the spoils. Whereas niggas have already concluded the spoils ain't worth shit. Right? It is black trans folks describing, for example, currency as coin, no matter what the currency is, because the exchange of money is actually not that fucking important.
Right.
That's why it's always truncated down to coins and not dollars, right? To devalue the sense that they try to make so common with all of us, right? That's a great example of the shits, but I think that black people do it in so many other ways, right? This is the commonly breaking of the law of food stamps. Niggas know.
Right.
But also, black people know to appear next to niggas to produce that shit, right? And those are the moments where they decide to be niggas. Usually it's at the moment of equality, but it's not always, right? When you got them high well-ass niggas who, hey, yo, for the culture, we're gonna drink some Henny tonight. Nigga shit.
Right, yeah.
You bald-headed nigga shit, but nigga shit.
Definitely.
Right, and so, like, those are the moments where I think that we can risk civility, and those, like, things. And it's not to say that it's not a total risk. For example, there's an open container law in just about every fucking state. So doing that shit outside is probably real risky for niggas. So them well-to-do black people ain't doing that shit. But it is to all to correct the comfort that people have about the logic that Chris Rock provided, which is to be like, how do we distinguish niggas? Right? Like, he talked about it literally from the personhood question. And it's like, I don't think that them niggas get to play victim at this point either, because they're always vilifying niggas. Like, I think that shit is incredibly gross. Right? And so I'm not the nigga who think it's a good idea to then do that as a way to then operationalize. We care about black people.
Right, yeah.
Because it's like, do you really? Like, you handpicking your niggas. That means that you don't give a fuck about black people. And in fact, you know better than Massa, who handpick niggas. And it's like, for me, I think that move to match their position is of peoplehood. So to say black in front of it is not inaccurate, because they were black masters.
Yep, definitely.
And so, you know what I'm saying, like, to ground that in short of the pessimist shit, but to also be like, niggas are wonderful, fucking wonderful creatures, and not because they're perfect. And that's kind of
the point, yeah.
Their perfection is imperfection. It's like, I woke up like this. Perfect. Right? In my Street Fighter voice. Because I really do think that the value that niggas provide to this world is unspoken and unimaginable.
Right.
And so it's one of the reasons why I call it impossible, right? And that rendering of impossibility for me is the possibility of niggas, because I mean, this is without getting into all this para-ontology bullshit that like people could get into to justify this shit. It's like, I just think that niggas live in a different register, and a difference of register should be honored at the very least by niggas. Because if they do, then it's a different way of life that they don't have to then ascribe to the peopling that is usually germane to black people, right? And all of them shit-ass politics. You don't really have to do that, right? It's the reality that, you know, when you pull up to the cookout and your grandmother still got all that really fucked up ass gender politics with them and say you should believe in all this extra shit and Jesus said, and you go, nah.
Yeah, right.
But guess what? I still love you though.
True that.
And it's not because you disrecognize, for example, the potentiality for the violence that she's using in her rhetoric, but it's a whole, bitch, you seen it down. Boop, I know who the fuck you is, and I keep it moving. Right, that for me is what niggas do all the time in very important vectors that don't shame, for example, black people with the potential for the niggas to actually be a thing. And black people usually are afraid because they've done so much violence to niggas.
That's real.
That's why I was like, they don't get to be a victim, niggas, and they do it all the fucking time.
That part is
like,
real.
nigga, what?
Because I'm thinking about how debate, you know, because, you know, I feel like...
I'm thinking about Morehouse and Spelman, the way in which those, literally, that shit is in the middle of the fucking hood.
True.
But they're the fucking staples of fucking black excellence that usually disabuse those niggas around them. It's like, that shit crazy! When I learned that them shits in the hood, I was like, what?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Right, or to be like, you know, niggas who go to Hampton, like literally college niggas in general, HBCU college niggas, they're all seen as niggas who made it. From and to where?
That's real.
Did you make it? My nigga, you're a paycheck away from dying just like the rest of us. What are you talking about? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, fuck, how much money you make as a nigga? Literally, you're moments away from death at any stupid ass intervention.
That's real. Yeah.
Was it crash proof that like Terrence Howard made all that bread? Wife still got fingered. Insert Kanye right here again. Still a nigga in the coop. Like, the fuck? Or insert the nigga who made fun of fucking Rodney King. It was like, you got grown in a Hyundai, nigga. Like, the shit that we can think about that describe the violence, nigga, is also a liquidation of niggas. And it's like, that shit is important to me because when we just use it flippantly, we can come up with like really anti-black tropes that black people do, like bye Felicia.
Right.
I'll never defend Amarosa in my life about her fucking politics. That bitch can burn her head with gasoline, draws on my nigga. But for that ABC woman Robin to like wow her shit and say bye Felicia, nigga, I was like, this is the most anti-black shit. And the nigga was like, yeah, fuck Amarosa, yeah. And I'm like, that's racist.
Right, yeah.
Like, fuck all the theatrics, nigga, that's racist. How do you then tell the ABC anchor that she was being racist to that black woman? Also, how do you then explain to Amarosa, like, how the fuck you agree to this knowing that this shit gonna be hella racist, bitch? Like, what
that's
the fuck?
That's a question of shit.
And if you telling me it's for the bag, that's why I go to G-Check. Hey, yo, that's reason with a capital R, bitch. That's not low reason, nigga. Like, you ain't peeped the footwork on this shit? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You literally didn't say that ABC was trying to put you against that's other black women that say whose side you on and then whose side she on. And then pick what is a proverbial right side or ethical side for blackness in public, making both of y'all actants to blackness. No? Wow. How you not know it's a trap, cuz? Both of y'all should have known this shit. But you work for ESPN, like, Robin, you knew. Ain't this what they do? Tell me what black athlete they paint in good light. I wait, don't say LeBron. Please don't. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, I love ESPN, but I know that they are gross. Like,
I like that nigga.
Nigga, I'd rather watch Shannon Sharp every day of fucking week, nigga. Put Uncle with the motherfucking black and mild on. Sell me some, nigga. Like, I'll take that over Skip Bayless and all these other racist ass Don Imus sounding ass niggas. Like, nigga, what?
True that.
Like, when my man died of cancer, I stopped watching ESPN for a minute. I was like, oh, they're gonna say booyah without this nigga. I can't. Like, I just can't. This shit is gross. So, like, what? And they sure did. And I was like, this is liquidation.
It's
like, nigga, what?
Yeah.
And it's like when they got you participating in liquidation so bad that when you go to watch the fucking sports interviews and you can finish the statements of every like sports nigga when they ask, so how was the game? And the nigga say, well, we persevered.
Yeah.
It was a it was a struggle. I never thought that we had it in us, but we followed through and yeah, good game. What the fuck, nigga? It's like the only time you see any interruption in the script is like episodic nigga violence. Oh, y'all wearing t-shirts? Y'all can't breathe? All right, so how was the game? I don't want to talk about it. We don't got no time to talk about no games no more. I don't even know if I'm playing basketball, nigga. Insert Kobe died. How you feel about the game? Well, I don't know, man. That nigga died, bro. I don't know. It's like literally the only time that the script has been interrupted.
True,
like, what?
True.
And this is debatable because it's like during Bill Russell era, it's like nigga was never interrupted. The script was invented during that bitch. It's like, all right, Boston niggas threw fucking cups of Jew niggas for at least half the game as y'all were losing. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Well, the game was good. I think we did some passing of the ball very well. I think we executed. The coach was some bullshit, but it was great. Good game. It's like, nigga, hold up, pause. Wasn't you the coach for 20 years? Like, put your hand up, bro. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, what? It's like, but that, for me, it's like, if that's the thing that I like and love, I learned from Nilly Fuller that if wherever I see white supremacy, which you'll do a whole treatise on that shit. Shout out to that nigga and the other black psychologists I fuck with, Frances Cress Welsing, even though she's problematic as fuck. That nigga taught me whenever I see white supremacy, I should expect that there is no space for enjoyment. And this nigga lists like 10 categories about how like the world is constructed in these. And I was like, wow, I mean, shout out to your language not being supreme enough, but all of these also signify anti-blackness. Every last one of them. Well, if that is society and a pie, woof, tough.
Right.
And so, thinking about that though, it's like, can we position niggas to be a valuable position to launch life from and to conclude in death with? Right? Like, my larger points about death is that niggas never actually get to die. They literally are sold into futures. I think that shit grows. Right? And so, let niggas die is a thing that I wish that literally just happened. Right? Without, I wish that nigga in his potential. It's like the good die young. Really? Let that nigga just die, bro. Don't call that nigga young. Don't say that nigga was good. Because good niggas and bad niggas deserve to be celebrated in time.
That's real.
And it's like, what? And we know this from Louisiana niggas. I don't know none of them niggas that they doing the second line for at all, whether they was good or bad, but niggas just rocking the fuck off because them niggas not here.
That is real. That is real.
And so, like, those are the things I'm like, yes. Those are nigga patterns. I think we can pick them up. And no, I don't think it's advantageous to actually try to mark all of them. I really think that that's some white people shit. Right?
Yeah.
Partly because I'm not trying to say that there's a way to nigga.
Exactly.
I'm just like, no, niggas do nigga shit.
Yeah.
There's a way to black people. And black people in it's gross. But niggas do whatever it takes to survive the fucking moment. That's the part I'm getting at. Or die in that bitch. But succinctly died on their fucking feet and not on their knees.
Yeah. Okay.
Niggas do that shit all the time. It's like, what? It's like, did you really have to die on that hill, bro? Yeah, nigga, with pride, bitch. Fuck you talk about. Like, put some respect on my name. Like literally niggas do that. It's like over the most stupidest shit. And I'm like, it's to resolve the question of ultimately, whenever we're in black spaces, you notice the common trope of disrespect can literally never mean the same shit. But I don't give a fuck what group of niggas you with. Disrespect is understood.
True.
Like, what? No matter what rules it was that initiated, nigga, that's disrespectful. Or nigga, don't disrespect me. What? Or, hey, yo, why that nigga? Oh, that nigga disrespected him. He smacked shit out that nigga for real. And sometimes you don't get to negotiate after disrespect is had. Like, but black people always feel disrespected. And it's to get at the dishonorable subject shit, but it's like, black people are not wrong about being suspicious about respect. And then the evacuation of it near them. Because who the fuck respect niggas? Like, even if you respect black people, who the fuck respect niggas? Except other niggas. Well, if that's true, fuck all y'all. Literally fuck all y'all.
Yeah. Okay.
But thank you.
Hey, no, yeah, hey, that's it. Of course, that was good.
That
shit.
shit.
That's
Woo,
good
that
shit.
shit was fire. No, you had me on my toes.